In 2026, the United States is India's biggest strategic partner and also one of the India's biggest pressure points. One week you hear technology partnership, Quad, defense cooperation. Next week you hear tariffs, sanction pressure, visa squeeze. So here's the real question. Is America a partner or a pressure machine? And the deeper question, can India take the partnership without surrendering strategic autonomy? Because this year is different. 2026 is more transactional, more coercive, and more geopolitically volatile. And three things are coming in this video. Stay till the end because I am closing three open loops. First, at the end, I'll give India's three non-negotiables with United States in 2026. Second, I'll explain the Venezuela shock, what just happened, and what it means for India and United States relations. I'll reveal the smartest win-win deal package, which is third one. India should demand from Washington so partnership stays partnership, not submission. Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to Diplomat's Desk. I am your host Meet Shah. Now, before we go into India versus US, one key term here, diplomacy term of the day, strategic autonomy. Strategic autonomy means India will cooperate with many powers but will not become a camp follower of any one power. It's not anti-US, it's pro-India. It means India builds partnerships but keeps the right to say yes, no or not now based on India's national interest. Now, what changed from 2025 to 2026? Last year 2025 was a year of building frameworks. Quad meetings pushed practical cooperation in the Indo-Pacific and supply chains. India-US tech cooperation evolved into a broader strategic framework called Trust, expanding beyond the original ICET focus, and trade talks were intense but still framed as let's find the deal. Now 2026 arrives and the tone hardens because 2026 is not just about cooperation, it's about leverage. Three pressure tools are louder this year. First, tariff and trade leverage. The US has already taken tariffs to very high levels on Indian goods linked to the Russia oil dispute and is openly threatening more. Second, sanctions and secondary sanctions climate. Not just we sanction Russia, but we punish anyone who still trades with Russia. Third, visa pressure as a geopolitical tool, including a legal fight over $100,000 fee for new H-1B applications, something that can directly hit Indian talent mobility. And then came the wild card, Venezuela. A shock event that reminded the world what unilateral power politics looks like when a superpower acts first and explains later. So the India-US relationship in 2026 has two lanes. Cooperation zones, Quad Indo-Pacific, defense tech, supply chains, critical minerals, AI and semiconductors. Pressure zones are tariffs, sanction tools and visa mobility squeeze. Now I am going to show you something important. Partnership works best when India has leverage in both lanes. So first, let's map the cooperation zones. Now, diplomacy term of the day here is Indo-Pacific. It's not just geography, it's a strategic idea. The Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean are one connected space through trade routes, energy routes, sea lanes and security. Now another term here is minilateralism. It means smaller coalitions like the Quad moving faster than huge, slow multilateral bodies. The Quad, India, US, Japan, Australia has been focusing on practical cooperation, maritime security, supply chain resilience, and critical minerals. So what does India gain? First, maritime domain awareness. What is it? It means knowing what's happening at sea, shipping, suspicious movements, illegal fishing, gray zone activity. In the Indo-Pacific, information is power. If you see the chessboard clearly, you don't get surprised. Second, critical minerals and supply chains. What discussions have directly highlighted critical minerals and supply chain reliability because modern power is not about missiles, it's about chips, batteries, rare earths, and logistics. Three, India's strategic message to the region. India benefits because the Quad reinforces one clear idea. No single power should dominate Asia's waters by coercion. Now here's India's red line. Very important. India will not treat the Quad like an automatic war trigger alliance. India's approach is deterrence without entanglement. Now, deterrence means you prevent conflict by making the cost of aggression too high through capability, partnerships, and clarity. But deterrence is not the same as blind alignment. And this is where India's strategy is mature. Cooperate strongly without outsourcing decision making. Now, what one myth is India is joining the US camp. Reality is India is building a network of partnerships while retaining freedom of action. That's how a rising power behaves. Now let's go to the second cooperation zone, which is technology, defense, and supply chains. 2026 is also a geo-economics year. It means using trade, technology, investment, supply chains, and sanctions as a tool of power. In this space, India's goal is not just access, India's goal is capability. This is why framework like TRUST matter. India's principal scientific advisors office describes US India Trust as an upgraded framework expanding cooperation from semiconductors and AI into critical minerals, biotech, energy and space tech with an AI infrastructure roadmap component. So what should India extract from this cooperation? Technology sovereignty with trusted partnerships. India should pursue trusted collaboration, but domestic capability in design, manufacturing, and standards. India is already working with the US on major defense platforms, including the MQ-9B drone deal signed under the Foreign Military Sales Route and Logistics MRO component in India. And there are also reported developments on jet engine cooperation. India has finalized a significant deal with GE for fighter jet engines for LCA Mk-1A, with deliveries expected later. This is not just procurement, this is about building a defense industrial base. Now, the Quad has explicitly discussed critical mineral supply chain reliability and diversification. And remember, supply chains are now strategic terrain. But here's the catch. The same America that cooperates on technology also uses technology as a pressure tool through export controls and conditional access. Now, what is export controls here? These are the restrictions on selling sensitive technologies, equipment, or know-how, often tied to national security. So, India's position must be cooperate, yes, depend, no. Because 2026 is the year the pressure zones are louder and now we enter them. Let's decode the first pressure tool. A tariff is a tax on imports. Simple, but geopolitical tariff becomes a weapon. You want access to my market, then do what I want. Now another term here, non-tariff barriers. These are the restrictions that are not taxes but still block the trade, standards, regulations, licensing, testing, rules, local content rules. Now what's happening in 2026? Reuters reporting in early January 26 says President Trump warned the US could raise tariffs on India if India does not curb purchases of Russian oil, and notes that the US tariff on Indian goods had already been doubled to 50% in 2025 tied to that issue. And Reuters also reports India is asking refiners for weekly disclosures of Russian and US oil purchases because India wants accurate data as it seeks a trade deal and faces US pressure. So tariffs are not trade policy only, tariffs are now foreign policy lever. Why tariffs threat change India's bargaining stance? Because tariff hit exporters, jobs, investment confidence, currency sentiment, and supply chain choices. And now pattern interrupt. The USTR owns fact sheet notes. US total goods trade with India was estimated $129.2 billion in 2024 and argues India's average applied tariff rates are higher than the US, especially in agriculture. Now, the US political pitch is reciprocity, but India's pitch is different. India is a development economy. India protects livelihood. India cannot open agriculture like a rich country without social shock, and that is why India finance ministers called agriculture and dairy big red lines in trade negotiations. So where does India go from here? India must do three things simultaneously. First, diversify markets. India is already accelerating free trade agreements to cushion external shocks. AP reports India signed a trade agreement with Oman as part of offsetting steep US tariffs and widening export destination. Second, upgrade competitiveness, manufacturing quality, logistics standards so India exporters don't die by one tariff decision in Washington. Three, insist on rule-based trade because tariff blackmail destroy trust. Now let me be crystal clear. US partnership is not equal to blind alignment. Trade is where India must keep leverage. Next pressure zone is even sharper because it targets third countries and forces choices. Now, diplomacy term of the day here is sanctions. Sanctions are the restrictions a country places on another country like financial, trade, travel, aimed at changing behavior. Now, the more dangerous term is secondary sanctions. Here's a simple analogy. Secondary sanctions are like punishment for doing business with the sanctioned country. sanctions are like saying I won't do business with you, and secondary sanctions are saying and if anyone else does business with you, I'll punish them too. That's why secondary sanctions feel like coercion to many countries. Now why does this matter to India? Because India is an energy hungry economy. Reuters notes India is the world's third largest consumer importer of oil and has been a major buyer of discounted Russian seaborne crude, taking advantage of discounts as Western countries shunt those barrels. And Reuters also reports US pressure is directly tied to India's Russian oil purchases. So India's position is not we love anyone's war. India's position is energy security. And energy security is national security. So what does India do here? First, diversify supply. India increases purchase from multiple sources like the US, Middle East, other without making Russia a permanent dependency. Second, improve compliance and risk management because shipping, insurance, payments, and banking channels become fragile when sanctions expand. Refuse coercion as a principle because today it is oil, tomorrow it can be defense, data, foreign policy, votes, anything. Now, sanctions are always purely moral instruments is a myth, but the reality is they are often instrument of state power, sometimes with humanitarian and economic spillovers. This doesn't mean India ignores global norms. It means India refuses to let its economy be collateral damage. Now pressures on three hits household directly, especially young Indians. 2026 teaches a harsh truth. Visas are foreign policy now because skilled mobility affects IT services, startups, remittances, research, and India's global talent position. And here's the major signal this year. Reuters reports a US appeal court agreed to fast track a dispute over President Trump's $100,000 fee on new H-1B applications with oral arguments scheduled for February and notes DHS is also implementing a new H-1B selection rule prioritizing higher paid, higher skilled workers effective February 27. So for Indian professionals, the risk is not just wait time. The risk is price and policy volatility. Why does the US do this often? Washington's domestic politics drives this. The US argument is H-1B is misused, it undercuts local wages, we want higher skilled and higher paid. But India's point is mobility must be predictable if the partnership is serious. Now pattern interrupt. If you are a student or tech worker, the message is don't build your life plan on a single visa pathway. Build multiple options. India growth, EU, UK, GCC tech hubs, East Asia and entrepreneurship. And for India as a state, the strategy is domestic job growth. So talent is not forced outward. And mobility agreements with multiple partners so no one country can squeeze India's talent supply chain. Now this is where we connect the dots. Trade pressure, sanction pressure and visa pressure. All are the tools of leverage. But the biggest warning sign of 2026 is not a tariff, it is military and sovereignty shock. Venezuela. And yes, this is open loop. Let's close it. In early January 2026, the United States carried out an operation in Venezuela that led to capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, an event widely reported as a major US intervention. Now here is what India did officially. India's Ministry of External Affairs issues a press release on January 4th, 2026 saying recent developments are matter of deep concern. India is monitoring the situation, calls for peace dialogue and that the Indian embassy in Caracas is in contact with the Indian community. That wording matters. India did not celebrate, India did not endorse. India stayed principled and protective of its citizens. Now let's be balanced. The US justification is claimed rational. Reportedly, the US position is linked to allegations and charges against Maduro, including narco-terrorism charges, and the operation was framed as a law enforcement plus national security. But international law problem here. Reuters reports the United Nations Human Rights Office said the world must make clear the US intervention is a violation of international law, warning it undermines the principle against using force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. That is not a small statement because for India the core principles are sovereignty, non-intervention and UN Charter norms. India's strategic partnership with the US cannot mean endorsing a template where powerful states decide the regime outcomes by force. Why this matters for India-US relations is first, principles. India cannot compromise on sovereignty and non-intervention because tomorrow the same logic can be used anywhere. Second, pragmatism. India wants a strong US partnership, yes, but partnership cannot become automatic political alignment with unilateral interventions. Third, energy and market spillovers. Interventions can trigger oil volatility, sanction escalation, shipping insurance risk, and supply disruptions. And India's economy is deeply exposed to energy price shocks. Fourth, global South expectations. Many countries watch India as a voice that can balance principles with pragmatism. If India looks like a silent follower, India loses credibility. So, what should India do diplomatically? Quiet engagement, protect Indian citizens, avoid entanglement, push for dialogue and stability. India's message should be we value partnership with the US, but we will not normalize unilateral military solutions. That's how a mature, self respecting power behaves. Now we go to Open Loop 3, the win win deal package. But first, I'm going to give you the playbook. If I were negotiating in 2026, here are the seven moves India must use. First, separate the lanes. Security cooperation is not equals to economic submission. India cooperates in Indo-Pacific, but trade coercion cannot be the price of security coercion. Second, build packages, not single issue bargaining. The US often negotiates by isolating issues. Do this on oil, then we talk trade. India should reverse it. Everything moves together: tariff, visas, tech access, supply chains. Move 3. Use market access strategically, not emotionally. India is a huge market, but access must be priced correctly. Tariff relief, stable visa regime, investment inflows, and export control clarity. Fourth, diversify partners to keep leverage. India's accelerating FTAs are not just economic, they are strategic insurance against tariff shocks. Fifth, de-risk energy without accepting coercion. India should keep diversifying energy, improve compliance systems, and reduce vulnerability while refusing secondary sanctions bullying as a principle. Six, lock in tech cooperation as a capability building. Trust and Quad Tech initiatives should produce measurable outcomes inside India labs, fabs, training, standards, and co-development, not just press releases. 7. Leverage the US own stakeholders. United States business groups, universities, state governments also want talent and stable trade. The H-1B fee disputes itself show internal pushback from business and research groups. India should work those channels calmly, professionally, and strategically. Now, as promised, here comes the open loops 3. The smartest win-win deal package India should demand. If India wants partnership without surrender, the deal must be balanced. First, tariff de-escalation with a clear timetable. No permanent tariff hostage situation. Tariff linked to a third country oil purchases should be rolled back with defined milestone. Second, predictable mobility pipeline. A stable pathway for high-skill mobility, transparent routes, and no shock fees that turns talents into political punching bag. Third, tech access with safeguards. Clearer export control pathways for civilian and dual-use collaboration under trust. So India can build capacity, not just consume. Now, what India can offer without surrender. First, increase long-term US energy purchases as a part of diversification, not forced alignment. Second, deep Quad operational cooperation, maritime domain awareness, logistic coordination, disaster response, and standard without turning Quad into an alliance. Third, supply chain and manufacturing partnerships, critical minerals processing, trusted electronic supply chains, AI infrastructure partnerships built inside India. That is a win-win because India gets stability and respect. The US gets a stronger, capable partner in Asia. Now the final open loop. India's 3 non-negotiables. First, strategic autonomy is not up for debate. India will cooperate. India will not align blindly. Not on votes, not on wars, not on regime change templates. Venezuela is exactly why this principle matters. Second, no coercive economic tools against India. Tariff and secondary sanctions should not be used as a punishment mechanism to force India's sovereign decision. Third, respect Indian talent mobility. If the partnership is strategic, then mobility is strategic too. Visas cannot become a destabilizing weapon. These three principles keeps partnership strong and keep India respected. So, in 2026, the India-US relationship is not collapsing, it's maturing. It's moving from photo ops to hard negotiations. And the right Indian approach is cooperate where interests align, resist where coercion begins, diversify to keep leverage and build capability at home. Because the theme of this video is simple: US partnership is not equals to blind alignment. Now tell me in the comments what do you want next in this series: India, China in 2026, India, European Union and tariffs, de-dollarization and BRICS we have already discussed, or the global tech war. Thanks for watching this one. If you like this breakdown, please like, share and subscribe. See you in the next one.